Here we stand, worlds apart, broken in two. Na na na, sleepless nights, losing ground. I'm reaching for you. Feeling that it's gone, can't change your mind. If we can go on to survive the tide, love divides. Someday your love will find you, break those chains that bind you. One night will remind you how we touched and went our separate ways. If he ever... What? Oh, we're reviewing a game DLC. We're not reviewing the song separate. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I was a little confused by the assignment, but yeah, that makes a lot more sense now. Okay, so well, don't I feel foolish? I need to go change a few things, and you know, we focus my review efforts, because I spent my entire time working on this, reviewing the song and not the actual game. So I'll be right back.
Because in this world, someone always pays. Best not to ask who or why. I understood that. Made my peace with it. Until that one night in Raccoon City changed everything.
So a while back, I reviewed the remake to Resident Evil 4, and I was pretty critical on it. I didn't say it was the worst game ever, but I did not give it the unimaginable praise that everyone else has given it. I mean, literally everyone was just like, it's flawless in every way, and yeah, no, the remake has a lot of flaws, alright? But it still was fun. I still enjoyed it, despite some of its really glaring flaws. You can go watch that review now. I'll leave the link down in the description below. And I had enough fun with the first, which is a remake, but I don't want to say the first remake, because that implies there's a second remake, and so it's kind of weird, but bear with me. I had a lot of fun with the remake, despite its flaws, that I decided to grab the Separate Ways DLC. Every time I look at this DLC, I think of the song Separate Ways by Journey, and now you understand why I did the bit at the beginning of the video. But so yeah, getting this, I found that I actually had a bit more fun time playing this DLC than the original DLC so many years ago. And one of the reasons why I enjoyed this one more than the original DLC is because the original DLC had just a few parts that just kind of dragged. I remember, like, the maze felt like it dragged a little bit, and then the whole, like, back of the truck sequence where you had to shoot down the crossbow guys for blowing up the truck and whatnot, that thankfully is gone. I always remember that I never really enjoyed that sequence in the original, and so I appreciate that that wasn't in this one. And so this leads to the game being pretty well paced. But that leads to one of the problems. This game is really on the short side. The original Separate Ways was not a long game to start off with, and this one is considerably shorter than that version. So there's probably like a perfect balance in there somewhere of like, okay, it could be a little bit longer, but it can be closer to this excellent pacing. Because the first one I felt didn't have as amazing pacing as this one. Another thing that's new in this one that wasn't in the original one is they took one of the bosses from the core game of the original one, didn't have it in the remake, and put it in this one and had it a reoccurring boss. And you know, they were kind of doing like a Nemesis, Mr. X type of deal, and it works for the most part. I didn't really have any issues with it. It was like, okay, boss fight time. Generally what you should be expecting with this series at this point. Now, one thing I absolutely loved, and I thought it was just going to be a gimmick like it was in the original one, but I loved the zipline mechanic. In the original one, there was a few scenes, you hit the bomb props and you see a cutscene of Ada Wong flying away on the zipline, and it's like, okay, and that's about it. In this one, you can actually use it in gameplay, and it's kind of cool. One of the things you can do is you can like shoot the zipline at an enemy who has like a shield and rip the shield out of their hands, so you don't have to worry about getting around them this time around. And then there's also like a zipline attack you can do where you zipline to them and do like a melee attack. And does it make the game super easy? Yeah, through most of it. But is it a lot of fun? Yeah, it is. And so there is always that issue with some games where it's like it can be super fun or it can be challenging. It can't be both. And that's kind of true sometimes. With this, it decided to be more super fun than it would be super challenging. I think there's a few times you couldn't use it against the boss. I could be really mistaken about that. It's been a few weeks since I played it because I've been busy with other things. But, no, I remember, like, just all of the zipline stuff was a lot of fun. Another thing, and yes, I understand this is stupid, but one of my issues with the original remake, that doesn't work either, with the remake, was that they didn't have Ada Wong's iconic dress in the remake, but you could have Leon and a bunch of other characters dressed like complete idiots and have them wearing like these crazy costumes, but they didn't offer Ada's iconic dress. Well, probably it was they were saving it for the DLC, because now you can have her in her iconic dress. Is it practical? No. The original outfit makes a lot more sense, and unfortunately you do have to finish Separate Ways before you unlock the iconic dress. So if you want to play through the game with the iconic dress, you have to at least beat that once. Although one neat thing is her unlocks transfer over to the base game. So if you play through the base game again after finishing Separate Ways, you can actually have Ada Wong show up in her iconic dress throughout the campaign. And so that is pretty cool. And so I appreciate that, because I mean, it's one of the most iconic like images in gaming history is Ada Wong in that iconic red dress. And the fact that they didn't have it in the space remake, I guess that works, base remake, was kind of a disappointment, and I'm glad they added back in the Separate Ways remake. It doesn't quite look like the original. There's like a black tint to it now, which I wish they just stuck with the original, but hey, at least you get something pretty close to the original, and, you know, I'm fine with that. Unfortunately, the issues I had with the voice actor last time are not improved here. It still sounds like someone just phoning it in. There's not that like avant-garde, like operatic aristocrat tone to Ada Wong's voice that always has been there. She just sounds like the girl next door, and it kind of feels like this actress, probably nicest person in the world, probably has some amazing roles. This time, it felt like she was phoning it in. It still feels like she's phoning in, and you can try and, you know, vilify me all you want. I'm going to call people when they do half-ass jobs on roles. Alright? I'm sure she's a wonderful person, and I'm sure she does great roles in other projects. This role, it kind of sucked. Moving on. And then another thing I really liked is that this was not ridiculously expensive. I mean, you look at, like, Cyberpunk 2077's DLC, you know, Phantom Liberty, it's $30, and even when it's on sale, it only drops like a couple bucks, and you know, that's kind of a lot for a DLC. Granted, I understand it's a huge, massive DLC, but with Separate Ways, the DLC was only $9 or $9.99, and it's like, you know what? That's not terrible. I mean, yes, it's a short DLC, but I mean, I've seen a lot less for a lot more on the marketplace. So I thought the $9.99 was a decent price, and I don't think it's going to hurt your wallet too much grabbing that DLC. Anyway, so to wrap things up, I thought this was a absolutely fun DLC. I didn't have a lot of problems with it. Is it a bit on the short side? Sure. Do I still have some issues with the voice actress kind of phoning in? Yeah. But this is totally worth picking up, and I think this is one of the better DLCs available out there for games now these days. And honestly, if you get Resident Evil 4 Remake, you should grab this as well. Anyway, that's been my review of Resident Evil 4 Remake's Separate Ways DLC. My name's Christopher Connor with Lemon Out Reviews, and that will be all for today.